yourself. Stupid headless freaks. Hi, I'm Sam, and I'm late to the party. Welcome to Late to the Party, where... Wait a minute. That's better. Welcome to Late to the Party, a series where I take you guys through some of the older video games you may have missed, at this point are hella cheap, and maybe worth another playthrough if you haven't played in a while. In this episode, we're talking about the beginnings of a series of first-person shooters that harkens back to the mayhem of yesteryear, Serious Sam.
Sam, I am.
Serious Sam: The First Encounter is a first, or optionally a third-person shooter that came out way back in 2001. This, along with Oblivion, is another game I got by pure chance. My dad and I were walking through a Target when I was about 6 years old, and knowing I had an ever-increasing love of video games, he bought it for me just off the name alone. I think it was only like $10 at the time, but neither of us could have predicted the sheer impact this series would have on my life. About 15 years later, I'm lying on my side at a tattoo shop, getting the series logo literally tattooed on my arm. Let's talk about it. The history of how this series started is nothing short of an underdog story. Serious Sam came from the mind of a small developer out of Croatia called Crow Team. First starting out as a small team of friends working out of their parents' garage, Crow Team started working on Serious Sam back in the mid-90s, originally stated to have become a horror game called In the Flesh. Over time, though, the dark, macabre theme, much akin to Blood, switched to more colorful and comical design the series is now known for. Looking to outdo the intense combat of Duke Nukem 3D and Quake, the devs opted to make their own engine, as buying the rights to use Quake or the Unreal Engine were somewhere in the millions of dollars at that time. I don't know about you, but after I got out of college, I sure as hell didn't have $1 million. I think I had enough money to maybe buy myself some Taco Bell or something. Eventually, Crow Team's Serious engine went on to rival the engines of their inspirations, able to render hundreds of enemies on screen at once, all with their own unique ways of attempting to slaughter the player character. Because of this, the game really shined, slowly clawing its way up to recognition and saving the entire series from extinction. Yeah, this series almost didn't exist. Running out of time, opportunity, and money, Crow Team decided to hell with it and released a tech demo in early 2000 to try and garner some interest in the project. But it turns out that this tech demo is so widely popular and won a few tiny bit of awards, it actually ended up saving the entire company. While not as widely known as, say, Doom or Duke Nukem at the time, Serious Sam: The First Encounter actually ended up winning several awards for its efforts, and for a team working out of their garages and borrowing money from their parents, I think they did pretty damn good. I mean, you gotta start somewhere, right?
Now that's some serious firepower.
Like many first-person shooters, the gameplay here is pretty simple. Grab a gun, shoot the bad guys, and try not to die. But if you dive a little deeper, you'll see that this game was pretty unique from the games that came out at the time, and is just a labor of love from the relatively small dev team. Let's get into it. Believe it or not, there is an actual story here. In brief, mankind found ancient alien tech buried deep beneath the Great Pyramids and used it to colonize other star systems. But in doing so, it did grab the attention of eternal unseen alien overlord dubbed only Mental. Seeking to rule all of, well, everything, Mental used the forces of various worlds he conquered to bring humanity to its knees. Using the time lock, Sam goes back in time to ancient Egypt to try and get the advantage over Mental, having to face massive hordes along the way in hopes of saving a future humanity. So, you know, no pressure. In your travels through Egypt, you'll fight your way through temples, tombs, desert plains, ancient yards, and, oh goody, another sewer level. Because every game needs a sewer level. The cool thing that really sets this game apart from other games at the time is the AI implanted in your brain called Nitrixa, which shows you highly detailed information on enemies you kill, levels you're in, and the weapons you pick up. Oh, and speaking of which, there is a satisfying arsenal here, ranging from the more simple conventional weapons like a double-barrel shotgun and twin revolvers to a highly advanced laser gun and the series' iconic minigun. Each weapon has its own purpose, and every enemy has a weapon type they're weaker to, giving the player an incentive to swap between every weapon, and not just be stuck on one or two of them. Oh, and before you start to worry, Sam went to the Doom Marine School of Weapon Handling, meaning that he can carry all the game's weapons all at the same time without having to drop any or swap any out for another weapon. Because Sam is all that is man. While yes, the core gameplay is pretty simple, I did have a quick thought. Many people like to say that the recent Doom Eternal is a work of art when watching master players play on the harder difficulties. And I think this kind of applies here as well. No, you don't have the sheer speed and agility of the Doomslayer, but because you stay grounded, learning enemy patterns and ammo conservation skills is vital to your survival. On normal, if you get cornered or lose track of enemies, you're probably going to suffer for it. And God help you if you are caught off guard on the higher difficulties. You will be shredded in seconds. Wow. 9 seconds. I'm going for some kind of a record here, guys. But if you feel like being OP as fuck and want to experience all the game has to offer, put the difficulty level down to easy or even tourist and go to town. Remember, there's no way of playing this game wrong so long as you're having fun doing it. On the easiest difficulty, there are a few less enemies, your max health, armor, and ammo are all raised up, splash damage from your weapons is off, and there's little in the way of any real threat to you. This is great if you just want to experience the game without all that pesky dodging. On the other hand, if you want more of a challenge, bump it up to normal and hone your skills a bit. And if you're a freaking masochist, you could go to the serious difficulty level, where enemies are faster, tougher, and more numerous. You'll die in only a few hits from even the weakest of foes, but hey, people have done it, and they have way more patience than me. So long as you decide to go above tourist difficulty, there is one more thing that is outright required for your survival here, and that's discovering the game's numerous secrets throughout every single level. These include earlier access to later game weapons, large health packs and ammo you're gonna need, and there's even a couple of hidden levels which I didn't even know existed until a few years after I originally played the game. This is one of those games that really defined my childhood. Really piquing my interest in future video games to come. But that's not to say this game is perfect, because I don't believe any game really is. And if you start, really looking into it, there are a few gripes worth bringing up.
Here comes trouble!
I firmly believe that the perfect game simply doesn't exist, and this is no exception. As with all games with relatively simple gameplay, this can get rather repetitive if you decide to play it for longer periods. Levels can vary widely on how long they take, both because of their design and depending on what difficulty you have to be on. So be sure to quick save frequently to avoid starting the entire level over again. So sit down for an hour or two, mow down a few thousand alien bastards, and pick it up later when you feel like you're running out of gas. And this just might be me, but I've never cared about the scoring. And I know it's supposed to be really arcadey and encouraging you to get the highest score you can, but I never really saw a need for its inclusion. Because of the series' cult following, the first encounter along with its expansion/sequel were both remastered in 2009 and 2010. These include an updated engine and remastered graphics and sounds. So if graphics are more important to you than they are to me, or if the classic simply doesn't agree with your newer PC, consider picking these up too if you're at all interested. The Serious Sam collection is available on the PlayStation Store, the Xbox Store, and Steam, and even I think the Switch, all for around $30 or so. Now this includes the HD re-releases of the first and second encounter, along with the series' direct sequel, Serious Sam 3, which is actually a prequel, and worth a whole nother episode unto itself. But if you want the charm of the classic graphics like I like, you can just pick each individual game up on Steam for $10 or less. And I kid you not, the gameplay footage I got for this, I actually had to re-buy the game on Steam, and it only ended up costing me $2. And trust me when I say this game is worth more than a bottle of Mountain Dew. Thank you very much for watching episode 2 to Late to the Party. And a very special thank you to my friend Cobra Whiskey Yum for spreading the word about this a bit more and giving me a lot of constructive criticism on it. And if you would like to, definitely drop a comment and maybe hit the like button to support me just a little bit more. I'm getting better at this every time I do it, and it's a big learning process for me, but I do enjoy doing it, even if I do stutter several billion times in between takes. Remember, if you're late to the party, it's still going on, so you might as well enjoy yourself. I'll see you next time.
It's time for bed, kids. Cartoons are over.